You're listening to the Speaking Tongues podcast. I'm your host, El Charisse. Each week, I sit down to a conversation with multilinguals where we discuss and celebrate language, life, and culture through our own perspectives. Episode 41, Speaking Brazilian Portuguese. Hello, language lovers, and thank you for joining me for this episode of Speaking Tongues, the podcast and conversation with multilinguals. For this episode, you longtime listeners will find something different. For the first time in doing this show for 1 year now, I have two guests in one show. This week, I am joined by my friends over at Diversilingua Podcast, Diego and Renata, and they are talking to us about Brazilian Portuguese. Diego and Renata are both members of a polyglot club in Brazil, and in this episode, they are sharing some strategies for understanding new vocabulary in other languages, telling us the differences between spoken Portuguese in Brazil, Portugal, Angola, and Mozambique. We're learning about the Brazilian Portuguese pronunciation of the letter R, and Diego and Renata are teaching us some expressions in their native cities that we should all know. You'll also want to listen to find out which city in Brazil has a notorious reputation and why it's important not to stereotype anyone, but especially when thinking about a country as diverse as Brazil. Big thank you to the Diversilingua Podcast and to Diego and Renata for sharing their culture and their language with me for this episode. As always, if you enjoy this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe on Instagram. Rate and review the Speaking Tongues podcast on Apple Podcasts so that other language lovers like ourselves can find the show. Okay, let's chat. Welcome back to another episode of Speaking Tongues. I am here with Renata and Diego. How are you both?
Hello, people. I'm Diego, and I'm so great to be here with Ellie and Renata.
Hello, I'm Renata, and I feel really happy to be here and a little bit nervous also because it's not my native language, but I hope everything's going to be okay. And yeah, welcome to another episode, people. Hello. Hello from Brazil.
I'm so happy to have you both here. And I like to start each episode with the same question. And that is for each of you. So I'm going to be asking the same questions to each of you, and you can jump in or you can, let one person answer. If you don't have an answer, it's up to you. But same question to both of you. What is your first language and how many languages do you speak?
I'm going to start. I'm Diego. I'm from Brazil, and I of course, I speak Portuguese as my mother tongue. And I started to learn English since I was on the school. I think that with 5 years old, I think. And I also can speak Spanish, a little bit of Spanish, and I'm learning French.
That's exciting.
Well, in my case, I started studying English when I was 13, but in a language school. In school, back in school, I think since third grade. So yeah, I can remember now how old I was back then. But it's my fourth grade. And then, just because of my father, because my father asked me to, after I finished my English course, he asked me for me to take another course, a Spanish course, because he was in love with the Spanish language. He used to listen to Luis Miguel, Iglesias, and he wanted to speak to me. He wanted me to interact with him and to study with him. So I decided to start learning Spanish. Then just because I love the way it sounds, and I think most people agree with me. As Diego, I started learning French. I think in April, or yeah, in April.
Oh, exciting.
I'm really curious about Dutch. So I have a very small notion of Dutch, and I attended few classes of Tupi just because I was really curious about the language. Because many cities in Brazil has Tupi names, have Tupi names, and I was really curious, but I couldn't attend any more classes because it was way too advanced for me, and it's really
Oh.
complex language because it's different from everything we've ever seen.
Hmm.
You know,
When you were both in school, what kind of options did you have for learning second languages? Was Spanish the language that was offered in your schools, or was it English or any other languages?
In my case, when I started on school, it was only English, the second option. Actually, yeah, the second option, because the first I can say it is Portuguese. But and then when I was with 5 years old, I got some classes of my mother because my mother was an English teacher. And
Okay.
I don't know if I started with English with 5 years old on the school. Probably not. Probably I started with English when I was 10 years old or 11 years old. And Yeah, back that time there was only one option, and it was English. But when I went to the middle school, I could choose between English and Spanish.
Okay.
And I took some classes of Spanish back that time. That's it.
well,
Okay.
at my school, I had no options. It was just English, and then in high school, as it was a Catholic school, and well, I don't know how to say that, but the I don't know, the Catholic order there was from Spain. I don't know if I can put like that. So they offer Spanish in high school. So I started, but it was mandatory. It was nothing like option. I didn't have options. You just have
Hmm.
to study Spanish, and that's it. So I studied Spanish. I started studying Spanish in high school.
Actually, I think that in my case, it was in the high school. It wasn't on the middle school. It was in the high school where I got the option to choose between English and Spanish. But I need to choose between uh, those two languages.
Yeah, I had to study both because they offered both languages, so I had like more subjects to study. So Spanish,
Mhm.
English, and the others.
Oh, wow. Were the schools that you went to, uh were they specifically like English schools? So you had like every subject in English, or was it just like you had English classes, or you just had Spanish classes, or did you have subjects studying in Spanish?
Yeah, in my case, it was only one more subject, English and Spanish.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
didn't have classes in English or in Spanish, neither in
Okay.
Spanish. But I'd like to, and back that time I was always asking my mother to have other course of English because I was so excited to learn English, and for me it was like a world that a totally different world that I could
Yeah.
see with the language, and that's the reason why I was so excited to have more classes of English in a private school specifically for language, and but I couldn't back that time. But
Mm.
that's it. I didn't have classes in English for other subjects. It was
Okay.
only specifically for English and for Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, same here. Actually, we call it bilingual schools when
Right.
we have this kind of thing. And bilingual schools back in Rio, I don't think that the number of such kind of schools are really high, and it used to be, and actually they are really expensive and
Mhm.
exclusive. So they are exclusive. Well, but we have also bilingual schools in the public system, but they are also rare.
When do you think, for each of you, when did you realize that you wanted to become fluent in another language? When did you realize that you wanted this to be a part of your life, learning to speak other languages?
Yeah, for me, I think that I've already mentioned that it was back on school. I think that with the 10 or 12 years old, and I was taking some classes of English on the school, but I was so excited with the idea to speak fluently English because for me it was a totally different world that I could learn more things with English. And for me, I'd like to understand people speaking in English in the movies, because I
Hmm.
used to watch a lot of movies from the United States, from even from the Great Britain. And as I am 34 years old right now, back that time was a little bit difficult because we didn't have YouTube and other stuff that we have right now with
It's
the
so true.
internet. And I was a little bit back that time. I was like, I'd like to travel around the world. I'd like to discover different things, and I think that English can give me that power. And my father was always saying to me that, oh, you should learn English because with English, it can open you some doors. And that's the reason why. And I was excited with English because some people back that time, some of my colleagues, they didn't like English. I love it. I love it, English. It was only one time that I didn't like too much. I think it was when I was learning the difference between past and present perfect, and past simple and present perfect. And for me, it
Hmm.
was like, oh my gosh, I think that I don't like English anymore
I
because
totally get you.
for Brazilians, it's so hard to understand those when you need to use one or the other.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I remember. And I was so excited to the possibility to travel around the world and the power that English could give me.
Wow, that's a hard question because when I started studying English, it was just because of my mother. My mother said so, so I needed to study because she felt it was really important to learn English. And as Diego's father said, it can open doors, so you need to study English. So I just going with the flow for years. And then when I needed to decide what I wanted to do for a living, especially before applying for exams, to get into uh, universities. I needed to decide which course I would, study, which university and courses I would study. So, and I had a talk with my mom, and she said, "Well, you are good at Portuguese and you have years of English. Yeah, why not language studies? Why not studying English, Portuguese? Why not?" And I said, yeah, maybe it's a good idea. And I was also thinking of being a translator.
Hmm.
So why not? And then when I was in a prep course, those prep courses you take to get prepared for the exams of
Yeah.
to apply for universities.
Right.
And my English teacher said, wow, you can go to the Federal University of Rio, because there they have both. They have Portuguese. You can study Portuguese and English at the same time. And I passed. And I studied there. And I don't know, it just has it just become part of my life. I started as a language instructor, and I fell in love with translation too, and that's it. So I don't have much to say. Then I started to have fun. My father asked me to take a Spanish course. Then I started studying French. So it becomes something fun, to discover new worlds, new way of saying things, of expressing yourself, and new cultures. I don't know exactly when I realized that.
Yeah.
I,
It just happened one day, I guess.
It just happened. That's it.
what it came to my mind right now is I remember a scene of Dirt Dancing movie with that song. I had the time of my life, I think.
Mhm.
Oh, I
And then
danced.
I was wondering, what are they saying? What are they talking about? I'd like to get to know more about the English, because my family, my aunt and my uncle, they loved that movie, and they were always watching that movie, and I was always wondering what they are talking about, because they used to watch that movie in English
Mhm.
with Portuguese subtitles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
and
think it's interesting that you mentioned that song, because as soon as you mention it, I'm singing it in my head, right?
mhm,
I think that's a good song for people who are learning English,
mhm.
because it's really slow.
Yeah,
It's like slow enough that you can pick up the words. But like you said, Diego, like when we were kids, we didn't have the internet. So even
yeah,
if we had the lyrics, we couldn't really look it up and see a translation. So
yeah.
that's like, it's frustrating,
Yeah,
right?
because I saw some translations in the subtitles, but I
Hmm.
was wondering, but what is I had the time of my life? What does that expression means?
Yeah.
I was like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I used to translate some lyrics too, as an exercise, because back then we have internet, but sometimes the translations were not available of those lyrics. So
Yeah.
I was really curious to know, and to get to know new expressions, and so yeah, I remember yeah, for some time in my life I was kind of obsessed to get new vocabulary.
Mhm.
So when I was talking to another English teachers in English, at an English course, because I used to give classes to English courses.
Hmm.
Uh, Sometimes I said things in a different way, just to use different words. I don't know if I do that nowadays. I don't think so, but when I'm watching a TV series, for example, and some expression I know what it means, but I found it interesting. It sounds great to my ears.
Yeah.
I used I usually take note of it, and then I said, I think will use it someday. I want to use it because it sounds great. I think it's
Yeah.
great. It's a great expression to use.
That's a great strategy to have, I think, when you're learning another language. Um, so let's talk about Portuguese.
Mhm.
Tell me what you think makes Brazilian Portuguese unique. And for people who are listening, how can you describe the difference between Portuguese spoken in Brazil and Portuguese spoken in other countries like Portugal or Angola or any other Lusophone countries out there?
I think that Renata can start that because
Oh, thanks. A tricky question now you're throwing at me. Um, well, I went to Portugal twice, but before that, most of people were approaching me and say, "Oh, I'm so afraid to get there and not getting anything they're saying," because speaking, uh, we we speak the vowels more clearly than the Portuguese. The Portuguese sounds like they're just speaking the consonants, but they don't care really much about the vowels. They don't stress the vowels really pretty much.
Okay.
We do. And I think this happens in Angola and Mozambique, but in a different way. But for our ears, they sound just like the same. I know they hate this because I've already met some African students back in college. But for us, it's true. For us, it doesn't matter. You know, you sound like a Portuguese person, sorry. And here we have lots of influence. We have influence from indigenous, native Brazilians. We have influence from lots of African dialects. And a famous linguist said that maybe this is the reason why we speak with more vowels. We give more, let's say, stress to the vowels than the Portuguese, just because of this African dialects, because they're really vowel like.
Yeah.
And but we are almost as the size as Europe, so I cannot tell like Brazilian Portuguese as a whole. In each region, different region of the country, you have different influences.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, the way we say the letter R in some words, there are some theories that claims we were trying to mock the R from the French, because the French culture was really trendy in the first half of the last century, 20th century. I don't know, but it's possible.
What would be an example of a R that has a French influence?
For example, I'm going to say the word door in Portuguese. Porta.
Mm.
Some Brazilian people say porta.
Oh, okay.
So when I go to a place, they say porta. If it's not in Brio, people go like, what? So because sometimes it's not accepted in the news or in the media, or the way it sounds, the letter R and the letter S too. The letter S is very always preeminent. Like, let's say, gas station in Portuguese, posto.
Mm-hmm.
Some Brazilian people say posto.
yeah.
Posto.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. In my city, people usually say post.
Yeah, you also have this sh sound, the sh
Mm-hmm.
sound.
Yeah.
And
It, it,
there were other words like there are other words like matemática, that it is math in Portuguese,
Mm-hmm.
and I speak like Mathematica, but some people close to my state, from the other states borders of my state, they usually speak Mathematica,
Hmm.
Mathematica e Matemática. They are different. And what I've noticed the difference between Portuguese from Portugal with from Brazil is, I think that in Brazil we are more we speak more this how can I say the I think that it is as a language that is more syllable. I don't know.
We speak,
Syllabic. I don't know.
uh,
I
no,
missed
it's
the word.
because the sequence. I think you know what you mean. It's the sequence consonant vowel. Yeah, even words in English. I think a guy from, I don't know, for a very famous company. He was saying, I think it went viral in Brazil because you're telling about Brazilian accent, and even Brazilian English words like top, we say toppy.
Mm,
Yeah.
We need a vowel in the end of the word, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
And he said that it's funny, but it's beautiful. It sounds beautiful to
Yeah,
him.
syllabic. I think that Brazilian Portuguese is more syllabic than the European Portuguese. That's
Okay.
what I mean. I meant.
I think that is really interesting what you're saying about like ending the words with the vowel, and I've talked to some people from Brazil, and or I've seen people from Brazil say they feel self-conscious about having this accent, or they feel like they're not pronouncing the words correctly, or and it's like I always try to tell them like I can understand you. Like as a native speaker, we can definitely understand. And it's, it's just the phonetics. It's just the way of pronouncing words. And it's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing
Mhm.
wrong with like pronouncing words that are not your native word in your own way. And um, is it where you can still understand one another? Or is it like you have to take an extra step to try to understand someone from Portugal? And I ask this because I think about the difference between US English and British English.
Mhm.
And we can understand each other,
Mhm.
but every now and then there's something that just is like, what are you talking about? I've
Mhm.
never heard that before, and vice versa. So is it more like that? And I guess even in Spanish, where you listen to people from like Dominican Republic versus someone from Colombia, and
Mhm.
it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I think for the business purpose, we can understand each other. You know, Brazilian and people from Portugal. But when it comes the time that people speak the way with their colleagues, with their friends, I think that sometimes we can't understand what they are saying, because
Mm-hmm.
they speak so quickly that for us it's like one single word. They are speaking so quickly that the words are mixed together, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to understand. And there are some pronunciations, some words that they pronounce differently,
Mm-hmm.
and also I think that we Brazilians, we speak in a way more like we are singing, we are
Mm.
singing while we are speaking. And people from Portugal is like, for me, sometimes it sounds like they are arguing with each other.
Yeah, they sound a little harsh sometimes. I've got a Portuguese friend, and I remember the second time I was in Portugal. He picked me up, uh, and he said like, hurry up," and I was like, "Okay, okay." It's like I'm running away from a place as a criminal, And the way he spoke to me, he said, "Okay, calm down." But it's just the way he is, not like he's treat me badly, but it's a little bit complicated, and it depends also from the area they are, because sometimes when we were talking, I could understand him at first, so
Mm-hmm.
I needed him to repeat at least twice for me to understand. But some other people I was speaking to, it was really easy to understand. So
Yeah.
sometimes the accents, the regional accent, the local accent, can be really tricky. And of course, as Diego said, it depends on the context. So maybe the Portuguese speaking to their friends, the street European Portuguese is really different. It sounds totally different, as we sound too. So when
Yeah.
we speak to each other and we try to understand each other, we have like a neutral Portuguese in which they can understand us and we can understand them because they know a lot of about our culture, especially the ones who have more contact with Brazilians. So they know some
Mm-hmm.
words they can't say, and we and the other way around. So we avoid some words. I remember just before I traveled to Portugal, I was like, okay, which words I can't say because it will sound like a taboo or as a taboo word or I don't know, or different from what I want to say. Like
Yeah.
the words you can't say at all. Because I was really afraid of, making fool of myself there.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
think that there are some words in Portuguese for Brazilian Portuguese that they are totally fine, but for
Mm.
European Portuguese is like swear words, and the other way around.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
examples?
yeah. There is a word that is rapariga. Rapariga is when you call a woman in the European Portuguese. When you need to call a woman, you can
Hmm.
call it as rapariga.
Mm-hmm.
In Brazil, we
Just don't
call
do it.
women like moça, mulher.
Moça, moço doesn't sound good. Yeah, it looks like you're saying like, oh, you're, how can I say this? It's not treating really well. You're addressing someone, but disregarding him. It's not a
Mm.
swear word, but you're just disregarding this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For example, in European Portuguese, you can say that woman called me, but and it was aquela rapariga chamou me, something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
in Portuguese, in Brazilian Portuguese, that would be rude, because
Yes.
rapariga is a word for whore, for whore.
Oh, boy.
Oh, and I and I'm so sorry for having pronounced that word here.
It's okay.
Yeah, don't call me that at all. Anywhere.
And there are also some expressions like, for example, estava a fazer, that it is an expression that is common in European Portuguese, but in Brazilian Portuguese it would be eu estava fazendo. It's
Oh yeah,
totally
we
different.
use the gerund.
Yeah,
We prefer to say the gerund, and the Portuguese prefer the preposition plus the infinitive, the verb in definitive.
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Like the present continuous.
Mm-hmm.
So it's our present continuous.
Gotcha. I see.
So it's different, and it's considered in Portuguese language. It's considered for us something really traditional because gerund is there like forever. And in European Portuguese is considered something. Yeah, I don't know how to say that in English, but it's, let's say, a new thing in European Portuguese.
Mm.
It's a
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. So, Brazil being as big a country as it is, do you notice any trouble understanding people from other parts of the country?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's not
sometimes.
it's not it's not something that you can. For example, in my case, I live in Fortaleza and Renata in Rio. It's not something that I'm gonna go to Rio de Janeiro and maybe people wouldn't understand me. It's not something like that. But if they, for example, they come here to Fortaleza,
Mm-hmm.
we have like a a typical way to speak with each other that we usually call it as cearenses. Is like the language of our state, Ceará, and we speak with different words and different expressions that they couldn't understand us. And also, like, for example, we use a lot of metaphors, and people from other states can understand that. We use a lot metaphors and other ways to express our ideas that it can be hard if I'm speaking with my friend to someone who came from São Paulo, from Rio, understand the whole conversation.
Diego, will you? I don't know if you would remember that, but I remember you were talking to Andressa in our WhatsApp group, and you addressed someone in a way that I said, "Wow, why are you saying that?" Because I understood it completely different. I think you were criticizing the guy, but actually you were saying that the guy was awesome.
I don't remember right now, but we have something like that. Like, for example, we usually say something like, "Oh, you are so cute. Oh, you are so beautiful. You are beautiful," but in a way that is not beautiful. We
Like
usually
sarcastic.
say something like that here in Fortaleza.
Oh,
and,
yeah?
and people from other states can understand that we are making a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, "Oh, you are so cute, you are beautiful, you are beautiful," but actually, in fact, I'm trying to say that that guy is ugly.
Wow.
Yeah, we have
Wow.
those kinds of things here in Fortaleza.
Yeah.
Well, something I like about Carioca dialect is that anyone you don't know the name is crazy. You call it as crazy, or in
Hmm.
Portuguese, maluco.
Mhm.
Oh, because the maluco was there and they were saying weird things. I couldn't understand it. Everybody, you can't say the name is maluco. I love that.
Mhm.
It sounds really funny.
That's so
And
funny.
and I remember now I was listening to a guy. Wow, he's awesome. In parodies, he does a lot of parodies with funk songs. And an expression I found really funny in Rio is brota. Like brotar means like blossom. So blossom here, brota aqui. And it was a kind of threat. The lyrics was kind of threat, like, no, come here to know what's going to happen to you. Like, just
Hmm.
come here, like, brota aqui.
Mhm.
Just blossom here. It's just like that. Just blossom here, and you know what's gonna happen to you.
Can you tell me what the culture is like in those cities or the regions where you're from? And maybe what are some of the things that you would want people to know about where you're from that they may have the wrong idea about?
Well, I live in Rio, so people got a lot of ideas about it.
Yeah, because I think that Rio is it's
Yes.
mainstreaming, I think.
Yeah, we are really nice, but as I said, we can be really stressed out, over the problems. Sometimes we have trouble to um, I don't know if to realize or to confess that we are wrong. So we pick up a fight for many stupid things. That's something that I don't like pretty much about cariocas. So they always think that they are right, no matter what. But
Yeah,
of course,
I
that's a
think that
general
people
thought.
here from Fortaleza, we think like that about cariocas. We think that cariocas always want to be right in their way of thinking.
Yeah,
Mm.
and also, for example, some people from São Paulo. Yeah, people from São Paulo, they think that we don't work, but I think we work a lot and sometimes even more than them, but for lower salaries. It's not because we
Mm.
have beaches, we are like at the beach all the time. you know. So sometimes we have those different ideas about carioca people from all parts of Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some people think we are some kind of aggressive in a way we approach people, but this is a Brazilian thing. I don't know. It's just the way we are, but we are not like that. I don't think so. Well, from outside Brazil, maybe people say, "Oh, you're all about carnival and party all the time." No, it's not like that.
Right.
It's not exactly like that. Of course, we love parties, um, but if you compare to São Paulo is always, you have always have a place to go at night. And in Rio, we don't have that many options after some time.
Mm-hmm.
In at night, for example, if you want to stay like longer, we have a specific place. Of course, there are many famous. For example, Lapa. Now, Lapa is
Mm-hmm.
a very famous neighborhood, and people really like drinking. I don't. I'm not a good example of carioca, but I observe my friends, of course. And people, yeah, just love carnival, but it has that time of the year. After that, we live at like ordinary people.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, about the violence, it's something that really concerns me. It's been increasing, but if you get uh, to some touristic areas, you're not going to feel that much, but maybe you're going to feel some.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you want to come to Brazil, you need to know people from here that will say what to do and not to do. You need to be as simple as much not to call anybody's attention. If you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something that you really need to be careful about.
It's interesting because your list is really long of things that people assume about Rio. And I think it's really like some things I've heard that you've mentioned and some things I haven't heard at all. And I definitely hear people say, like, oh, Rio is the place to go party. And it's like, anytime people talk about that, I'm like, I know there's so much more to Rio. And I think that I'm glad that you mentioned all of that. And it seems like a city that has a bit of a reputation for good and for bad, would you say?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but especially as a woman, sometimes I feel pretty uncomfortable when I'm traveling abroad, especially because they have this idea of like the woman, easy woman, and sometimes it's not exactly like that. I think we shouldn't judge people, but by where they come from.
Mm-hmm.
We are just unique. We are just anyone else. There
Yeah.
are some easy ones. If you want to pick up, you feel feel free for that. But there are some, I don't know if I can say serious because it sounds like I'm judging because I don't like to judge. I think you do whatever you want. If you want just the gringos, go ahead because some gringos just want the Brazilian ones, so they want the same. They are on the same page,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but treating every single woman as it was just the same just because they are from Rio, and because we are have people give us a bad name. uh, not just outside Brazil but inside Brazil too. Carioca women has a have a bad reputation.
Oh
Mm.
no.
Yeah, that sounds terrible, but I hear I every time I hear that, every
Mm-hmm.
time I hear that. But I know we are just, I don't know, we are just the way we are. We like
Yeah.
shorts. We like shorts and skirts, and we express ourselves the way we want to.
Yeah.
A period.
How about you, Diego? What about in Fortaleza?
Yeah, I think that in Fortaleza, I don't know what people have in their minds around the world about Fortaleza, because maybe they don't know too much about Fortaleza. I think that many Europeans think that here is a place for practicing kite surfing because we have too much wind. And but I think that for Brazilians, maybe they think that here people are so poor because we had a past with a lot of poverty here in this region of Brazil, not the northeast of Brazil. And also, I think that they think that every people from Fortaleza can dance for forró. Forró is a kind of dance
Mm.
from my city, from the region of the northeast of Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that not I think that there are some people who can dance for her like me, and others that don't, And it's yeah, we have people from all kind of uh, of knowledge, and I think that there are some people that they love the beach because we have a lot of beaches, and
Mm-hmm.
some of them don't. We also have some places to visit that are not on the beach. Like there is a small city called Guaramiranga that it's in the top of a great mountain here in.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it has a cold weather for us, for people from Ceará,
Yeah.
because a cold weather for us is 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what would it be in Fahrenheit, but it's 20 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, the same.
that's it. I think that we as people from Ceará, a lot of people from Brazil think that we are so funny because we are known for being funny, because a lot of comedians are from Fortaleza, from Ceará.
Yeah.
But I think that I'm not so funny. There are some of my friends that aren't funny, but there are some others that are funny, and I
Yeah,
think
but
that
some of the best are from Ceará or Northeast.
yeah, and I think that mainly because we joke a lot about our condition, because here in Ceará we have a part of our state is with a hot and dry weather,
Mm.
and we have a lot of droughts, and people don't have even water to drink in some
It's like
places of
a desert,
Ceará.
right? We call it sertão, right?
Yeah, we call it sertão. Sertão is like the countryside of Ceará, in the middle of the state.
Oh, wow.
And there are some parts that doesn't rain all over the year, and it's hard to find a place where you can find water.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we had a lot of difficulties in the past 20 years or more. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of us, most of us, make some jokes about that way of living. And maybe because of that, because we think about something that it's bad for us, but we make a joke out of that.
Yeah.
We are known for being happy people in
I
Brazil.
think this is a Brazilian thing too. We make jokes of our problems, but in a funny
Yeah.
way, not sometimes in a harsh way or on a dark way, as Argentinians, for example.
Mm.
We just make fun. We just make men of the internet to go viral everywhere. We say it. We call it ourselves the queens and the kings of memes of the internet. Don't mess with us, you know.
Mhm.
Tell me about Diversilingua. Tell me about tell me about your podcast. Tell me about how you started Tell me about some of your goals. How have your conversations been? And tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, actually, we decided to start Diversilingua during the pandemic, during the lockdown here in Brazil. Most of us of the team, some of us had that idea to create a podcast to spread the idea of learning new languages and get to know other culture. And and then I started with that idea. I decided to record the first episode, and then I called Renata, because Renata had that idea also, and I called Andressa and Mansu. They are also part of the team, and that's it. And then we started like out of nowhere. We didn't have an idea how to start it. We I think that we look at some videos on the internet about how to start a podcast and how to look for platforms where you can put your episodes and stuff. And
Equipment.
yeah, even the equipment, we didn't know how to do with the equipment to get a better audio quality. Even I think that still now we have some equipment that are not properly for a podcast. We are at the beginning, but I think that the main idea for starting a podcast like that is to spread uh, um, some concepts, some ways to learn a new language, the culture of different part of the world, and also to share some ideas how to travel around the world. And in a podcast with the Portuguese language, in a Portuguese in Portuguese, yeah.
Yeah.
But we already recorded 3 episodes in English, one with you, one
Yeah.
of them, and I think that our main objective would be to become bigger and to spread more ways of learning new languages. And maybe we've already discussed, me and Renata, we think about having a conference maybe related to the podcast.
Just would like to add that my idea wasn't of a podcast, but I was interviewing some people because something we have in common is that we are part of a club, a polyglot club. He is from Fortaleza and I'm from Rio. So the polyglot club from Rio, sometimes we welcome people from all over. So we already had people from Ecuador, Peru, Argentina, Russia, a girl from Poland,
Exciting.
and I was feeling that, wow, we should promote our picnics and our events, but at the same time, I wanted people to get to know about their culture and how they
Mm,
see Portuguese language, how they see us Brazilians. So I decided to record some interviews, but in video.
mhm. So for people listening, tell us where we can listen to your show. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how they can do that.
Yeah, if you want to get to know more about Diversilingua, you can look for Diversilingua. You can search on your favorite podcast application, like for example Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast. You can search for Diversilingua, or you can go to anchor.fm / Diversilingua. Yeah, and also we have an Instagram account and a Twitter account where we can share some of our episodes. We are more. I think that we are more. We share more things on Instagram,
Okay.
and you can find us searching for Diversilingua. And also, if you want to send us an email, diversilingua at gmail.com.
Awesome. I'm going to add all that information into the show notes so that people can just click in there and they can go and listen to your show. And I don't understand Portuguese very well at all. I'm being too nice to myself. I know like 10 words of Portuguese, but I listen to your show because I like to put on I like to put on shows in the background, like when I don't understand, because it's like, especially with Portuguese, it's like a melody in the background. It's like putting on, like, I just love the way that the language sounds. So I think that for anyone who's wanting to hear Portuguese, if you're studying Portuguese, if you're learning, this is a great podcast to listen to and just be able to practice your listening skills. And plus, their interviews are amazing. And I hope you'll all go listen. So I like to end each episode with the same question, and that is, do you have any jokes, popular sayings, tongue twisters, cool slang words, idioms, or words of wisdom or advice in Brazilian Portuguese to share? And I'm gonna add one more thing onto this. If there's something local from any of your towns that you want to share, that you think like someone coming to Fortaleza, they have to know how to say this, or coming to Rio, if you want to add something like that, you can definitely do that. But this is the time where it's your turn to teach me something in Portuguese and see how I mess it up so much. But I'm still going to try.
Well, my brother and his wife, they shared two videos about two girls, no native Portuguese Brazilian speakers, but one of them was the best one, because she said that she had so much trouble with two discourse fillers, eita and euem. So this is a Brazilian Portuguese, it's not local language.
Mm.
And well, and I was giving myself a hard time trying to think how to explain how to use euem and eita.
Okay.
Eita, I think you can use in almost any kind of situation, but it depends on the way you say it. But it's just a discourse filler, like when you are on the street and you see, I don't know, someone's just stumbled, but in a very ugly way, and you say eita. Or someone said, is telling you a story and there's a plot twist and you say eita.
Oh.
Or you like you're speaking to someone and you're telling him or her a bad news or something really not so good, and you say like eita.
Eita.
So this eita is more like, oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Right.
Ewen. In way, um, is a way to disagree with someone, or to feel that you just don't understand what someone, not understand, but understand the reason why people is doing what they do. You're talking to, I don't know, to a friend, and they say, oh, this girl is like, I don't know what she was thinking when she did that, and you say, eu, hein?
AOA?
Eu, hein? Like, no sense, It's just
Right.
a matter of saying it's no sense, or you disagree, and I don't know, somebody, our boss told us that we should do that for tomorrow. And you said, anyway, we're not going to do that. So, yeah, I think it's the least I can do.
I like those because it's like something you probably hear if you're learning Portuguese
A
and
lot.
you really, like you say, your brother's friend, like you don't know how, like when you're supposed to use it, but you really broke it down so that we can understand when to use eta and ewe.
Anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, here in Fortaleza we have a lot of expressions. One of that came into my mind is "jabéis." Jabéis,
Gabay?
jabéis, jabéis, jabéis is what the hell.
What the hell?
It's almost
Love it.
it's almost literally what the hell. And but people usually say like base, base. They short the expression like base ma is like yeah, what the hell bro, what the hell bro,
Oh.
base, oh base.
Say something like, fala sério. Fala sério.
Yeah, yeah, in real
Hell.
is fala sério, it's the same as it has the same meaning, fala sério.
I like those.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like little words that I've been learning from people in Brazil, and I need to start a notebook of like what people say and like what part of Brazil they say it in, because it's like we all have these expressions in our own languages too, but there's really no like it's you won't find it in a dictionary, you know? You just have to like know people and they have to explain it to you, and you have to just get it from the context, I think.
Yeah.
Well, guys, lady and gentlemen, Renata, Diego, thank you so much for your time and for having this conversation with me about Brazilian Portuguese and culture and food and all the wonderful things about Brazil. I want to ask you really quickly, in this situation, what is the best way to say goodbye?
Te vejo em breve.
And Renata?
Te vejo por aí. It's a very carioca thing. Te vejo por aí. A gente se vê por aí. A gente se vê por aí.
É, a gente se vê por aí. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. And I'll be talking to you soon.
It was wonderful.
It was a
Bye.
pleasure to be here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. It was a pleasure to be here. Bye.
You too. Bye.